Everyone talks about god roll relics in Nightreign, but most don't actually know what one looks like. The game never explains the rules that determine which effects can appear together, so most players just have to guess. In this video, I'll make it simple. I'll break down the rules, and then show you the strongest possible combos for every Nightfarer. There are two rules for random relics. These rules don't apply to guaranteed relics from merchants or remembrances. First, you can't have duplicate effects. Second, you can't have more than one effect from the same category. There are 7 main effect categories. Again, you cannot have more than one effect from a category on the same relic. The categories are character-specific effects, starting armament affinities and statuses, starting armament skills, improved sorceries and incantations, HP restoration on attacks, FP restoration on attacks, and attack power. Everything else has no category, though it's worth noting that effects with different tiers, like Vigor +1, +2, and +3, fall into their own mini-category. The most important category for a god roll is typically attack power. You can only have one attack power effect on each relic, and 3 in a build, so you really want the best possible effects. Optimized attack power rolls can give you roughly 50% or more damage by the end of a run. Take note, the list I'm sharing is different from the one provided in-game. The game includes stance breaking and consumable buffs in this category, but those effects are not mutually exclusive with other attack power effects. The game also sorts weapon-specific attack power effects under individual weapons, even though they are mutually exclusive with other attack power effects. I'll be listing effects by priority. Priority 1 effects are build-defining. Priority 2 effects are good but could be swapped for something else. For the sake of time, I won't go super in-depth on every effect, but I'll call out important details. Treat these builds as starting points, not as the only way to build a character. This video is meant to help you theorycraft your perfect build. For example, the Evergel effect will be priority 1 in every build. It's the strongest damage boosting effect in the game, and it's not close. But if you don't like it, don't run it. Let's start off simple with Raider. For priority 1, we have the most effective damage boosts. The Evergel effect, taking attacks improves attack power, and damage taken while using character skill improves attack power and stamina. Now, some relic effects can't stack with themselves. If you have 2 relics with the same non-stacking effect, only one will be active. Here's a list of all the damage multipliers and which ones stack with themselves. Since all 3 of Raider's priority 1 effects do not stack with duplicates, the 3rd relic should run a different attack power effect. Priority 2 effects worth considering are Duration of Ultimate are extended, partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks, defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge, and Stone Sword Key in possession at start of expedition. Keep in mind while some effects are mutually exclusive, most are not, so there's room for variation across your 3 relics. That's not as true for casters because improved sorceries and incantations is a separate category from attack power. That means you can have both on the same relic, and casters can have over a 100% damage boost with perfect relics. If you want to see how that's possible, check out my video, Nightreign's Multiplier Meta, linked in the description. For Recluse, priority 1 effects are the Evergel effect, magic attack power up +2, collecting affinity residue activates Terra Magica, and, if you want to specialize, an improved sorcery of your choice. I'd prefer improved Crystallian sorcery because it's incredibly consistent. 2 of the 8 blue rarity staves are guaranteed to have Shattering Crystal. Assuming equal roll weights, every time you find a blue staff, there's a 1 in 4 chance it has Shattering Crystal. If you find 11, there's a 95% chance one has Shattering Crystal. If you find 16, that jumps to 99%. Compare that to more niche spells like Carrion Sword sorceries. Only 1 in 8 staves guarantees Carrion Slicer. You would need 22 staves for a 95% chance, or 34 for a 99% chance. For priority 2, I recommend Suffer Blood Loss and increase attack power upon art activation. It boosts your damage by roughly 15% for 30 seconds, and activates blood loss bonuses like Lord of Blood's Exaltation. This leaves you with 1 free relic slot, which should probably go to a Stone Sword Key. If you don't want to specialize, feel free to drop improved sorceries for HP and FP boosts. Not all characters need such specific god rolls. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Wylder, who doesn't have a clear best in slot beyond the Evergel effect. Improved Greatsword attack power gives a 6.5% boost, but Wylder's quality scaling makes him effective with many weapon types. Physical attack up +2 is a 5% boost to physical damage only. Not great if your weapon has split damage. Improved attack power with 3+ greatswords equipped gives a universal 10% boost, but you'll need to find and carry 3 greatswords, and the effect doesn't stack across multiple relics. Taking attacks improves attack power is a 15% buff, but it only lasts for 10 seconds, and you might have trouble with uptime if you're not getting hit. The guaranteed boss relic, Knight of the Lord, is worth mentioning. Its effects, boosts attack power of added affinity attacks, and switching weapons boosts attack power, work with all weapons, and boost Wylder's ultimate by 5% each. Also, due to some classic FromSoft spaghetti code, if you don't like switching your weapons, you don't have to. When you're holding certain weapon types in the right hand, you can activate switching weapons boost attack power without switching your weapon. You do this by two-handing the weapon and then one-handing it. This works for great swords, colossal swords, heavy thrusting swords, curved great swords, twin blades, great axes, great hammers, colossal weapons, spears, great spears, halberds, reapers, great bows, and ballista. Basically every weapon type you would ever use on Wylder. For priority 2, keep an eye out for partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks, defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge, a stone sword key, or any of Wylder's unique effects, except art gauge is greatly filled when ability is activated. That one's pretty bad. If you're okay dropping an attack power effect, the Wylder's Earring gives a solid package of priority 2s. Executor can go a few different directions, but Executor players, let's be honest with ourselves, 90% of the time it's a katana build. Priority 1 effects are the Evergel effect, improved attack power with 3+ katanas equipped, and improved katana attack power. Priority 2 is where things get more interesting. You can modify your starting katana for multiple status effects, and effects that give you attack power up when facing a status afflicted enemy aren't in the attack power category, which means you can have both on the same relic. You can add poison or frost to your weapon, then use a skill that applies the other status. Alternatively, you can change the starting skill to seppuku. Executor's passive gives him a 20% damage boost for 20 seconds after recovering from a status, and the buff stacks with itself. A couple seppuku casts can skyrocket your damage, making the starting katana useful throughout the whole run. The only character-specific effect I'd recommend in Priority 2 is Roaring restores HP while art is active. A stone sword key is also welcome here. Ironeye can be built for bows or melee. Either way, the Evergel effect and +1 additional character skill use are Priority 1. For bow builds, add improved attack power with 3+ bows equipped, improved bow attack power, or Knight of the Lord to your list of Priority 1s. Melee Ironeye runs into the same issue as Wylder, too many viable weapon types to lock into one attack power boost. In that case, improved attack power with 3+ bows equipped and Knight of the Lord are great flexible picks. Priority 2 effects are partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks, defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge, stamina recovers for each successful attack, and a stone sword key. Revenant can be built a few different ways. Like Recluse, she can go all in on a specific affinity and spell school. Alternatively, she can run builds that focus on just the affinity or just the spell school. You might not want to run both because Revenant doesn't start with offensive spells. Recluse can get away with it because she deals pure magic damage from the start, but Revenant needs to find a suitable incantation. For lightning builds, improved Dragon Cult incantations will generally be better than lightning attack power up +2, since it has a higher percentage boost, and almost all lightning spells are Dragon Cult incantations. For fire and holy builds, fire or holy attack power up +2 might be more consistent, since there are multiple spell schools for each affinity. Power up while fighting alongside family is a universal damage buff. It gives Revenant a 10% boost to everything when Frederick is summoned. That's a Priority 1. To smooth out early game progression, I recommend a Wraith-Calling Bell or Hoarfrost Stomp as Priority 2 effects. Other Priority 2 effects worth considering are Strengthen Family and Allies when Ultimate Art is activated, Trigger Ghost Flame Explosion during Ultimate Art activation, defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge, and a Stone Sword key. Here's an incantation build, and here's an attack power and incantation build. For a Spellblade Duchess, the Evergel effect and magic attack power +2 are Priority 1. While improved sorcery effects are strong, they're very inconsistent on Duchess. Her loot pool includes tons of dex weapons, making spell-specific builds a big gamble. For a more consistent power boost, I recommend building around Restage. Improved character skill attack power increases Restage's damage by 20%. Character skill cooldown +3 shaves off 10% of Restage's cooldown, but how many do you want? each cooldown reduction stacks multiplicatively, so each effect takes off less and less time. At first glance, it looks like it's providing diminishing returns. However, if you look at the damage per second, that's not the case. For simplicity, let's say every time you restage, it deals 100 damage. At the base cooldown of 12 seconds, the DPS of restage would be 8.3. With one cooldown effect, the new cooldown is 10.8 seconds, and the DPS is 9.3. That's an 11% increase in restage damage. With two cooldown effects, the new cooldown is 9.72 seconds, and the DPS is 10.3. That's also an 11% increased restage damage. The same is true for a third cooldown effect. On top of that, these effects are compounding. The total DPS boost from 3 isn't 33%, it's 37%. So use as many as you can fit. One Duchess effect worth mentioning is defeating enemies while art is active ups attack power. This gives Duchess a 15% damage boost for 30 seconds for every enemy defeated during finale. What makes this effect special is that you don't have to kill the enemies yourself, and you can stack the damage buff multiple times. For example, if you use your ultimate and your team kills 5 enemies, Duchess gets a 100% damage boost. This is strong in the right situations, but I don't think it's good enough to be priority 1. This effect requires team coordination to maximize, does nothing for bosses with no weak enemies nearby, and takes time to set up. If I wanted to increase my damage by 100%, I could just fight the boss 15 seconds earlier. For priority 2 effects, I'd recommend a Wraith Calling Bell or Hoarfrost Stomp for an easier early game. Oh, almost forgot the Stone Sword key. Guardian often gets memed on for dealing no damage, but that's only true if you're not landing guard counters. Improved guard counters and guard counter gets a bonus based on current HP are priority 1. The second effect is stronger, but it doesn't stack with itself. All Guardian players agree on one thing. Reflect a portion of damage received when ability is activated is the best Guardian specific effect. What they can't agree on is whether the others are garbage or god tier. I'll let you decide. For priority 2, stamina recovers with each successful attack, works with reflected damage, and Guardian's Whirlwind skill. Also consider partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks, and a Stone Sword key. These are some of the best combos right now, but the meta can change with every update. I'll make more videos as patches drop and new effects are added. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, subscribe and keep an eye out for future guides. Some viewers have requested more short-form content, so I'm launching a TikTok channel. The link is in the description.